This is the Metal Morgue, dissecting the best and worst horror movies and music that rock, with your host, Dr. Gangrene.
Hey guys, it's my pleasure tonight to interview the one and only Fast Eddie Clarke, founding member of Motorhead and Fastway. How you doing, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Pleased to meet you.
Thanks. It's my honor and privilege to talk to you. Wanted to tell the guys, first and foremost, tell everyone about your new album.
Yeah, great. Well, it's called Eat Dog Eat, which is going to confuse everybody because it confuses me. Because obviously we all want to say dog eat dog, but actually Eat Dog Eat, it's a singer thing. Singer Toby Jepson from the Little Angels, who I wrote the album with and obviously recorded it with. That was one of his great ideas, because singers come up with all these great ideas.
Right. Well, so you guys are planning on doing some touring?
Well, yeah, definitely. We've got we're doing Download here in the summer. I want to get some more festivals here and in Europe, and then obviously the record comes out April 10th in America. My dream would be to come back and do a tour of America or something, or support or some little shows or something, because, I'm getting on a bit now, and I've had a few scares over the years, so it'd be nice to get over and just take the guitar to America one more time and have a little bash,
Oh, we'd love to see you. I know
yeah,
it'd
be
live.
fantastic, because I have such fond memories of America with the first Fastway record, when we were sort of supporting Iron Maiden, and we went on to support AC/DC, and it really was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only other time I'd been there before really was Motorhead supporting Ozzy Osbourne on his first tour of America.
Wow.
Which was okay, but the crowd didn't really know what Motorhead was, where we were coming from, as it was a bit early. That was 1980, 81.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we were going out there and sort of opening for Ozzy. Well, the people you could see them, they were just looking at us thinking, what the fuck's this?
Well,
And after time we come off stage and say, well, they didn't seem to like it very much, did they? And it was almost they were bemused by it, they couldn't work out where Motorhead was coming from. Of course, nowadays, it's the norm now.
Yeah.
But back then, that real sort of like loud, sort of make your ears buzz music wasn't so acceptable then,
Tell me a funny story about Ozzy Osbourne and touring with Ozzy, because I know you got to have a million of them.
Well, for Ozzy, I know we were in Buffalo, New York, and we arrived in town, and it must have been about 1 in the morning, 2 o'clock. So Motorhead, we went across to the Howard Johnsons, right? And it's probably not that funny, but it was funny when I was sitting there. So we went across to the Howard Johnsons to have a bite to eat. Well, you have an all-day breakfast in Howard Johnson's, so we ordered our eggs and bacon and whatever. And Ozzy's coming with his roadie. Well, Ozzy's a bit worse for wear,
Mm-hmm.
And he sat down and he's ordered his food. He's not saying much because he's a bit worse for wear. He's sitting there, and so the big plate of food comes, a couple of eggs, all the bits on it. And we're sitting there, we're trying to have a conversation, but it's difficult, and all of a sudden he collapses, face first, into the dinner. And I remember the look on our faces, we didn't know what to say. We were so embarrassed for him, but he just stayed there, and the roadie's trying to get him up, and it's like, and he's got egg all over his face, and When I went, obviously, with Fastway, it was a completely different thing. Because we'd done an MTV video, because it was 83 when MTV just started. Say What You Will took off like a rocket.
Mm.
And, of course, everybody knew who we were because of the video. So we'd turn up at shows, and I remember going to Wyoming was the first show with Iron Maiden. And there's all these girls and lads out there all cheering, going, hey, Eddie, hey, Dave. And we turned to each other and said, well, how do they know who we are? Of course, we didn't realise then that the video was already being played on maximum rotation on MTV. So it was a completely different ball game, you know, every time we stepped out. It was fantastic. I mean, it really was. My memories of that are just, you know, second to none, really. I mean, that really was some of the best times of my life.
Oh, it was a good time for the music scene, you know?
Yeah, you know, well, you look for moments like that, you know, when the crowd, I remember we played, we support, this is Iron Maiden again, we were in Cleveland, where we broke out of on WMMS. Mm-hmm. And blimey, I mean, we went into Far From Home, that blues tune, and, well, the roar from the crowd, you couldn't even hear the amplifiers, you couldn't hear anything except the roar from the crowd, and all the lighters were up, you know, it was about 17,000 in there. And I mean, Jerry dropped his drumsticks because he got over emotional. You know, Dave got all teary. You know, me, I don't do that, but I definitely took on board that it was a really sort of fabulous moment. You know,
absolutely. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it is about the US audiences. They just seem to get behind you. You know, 100%. You know.
Oh yeah, I do. So you mentioned your guitar. I noticed that you played the Strat with Motorhead. Are you doing the Les Paul with Fastway nowadays?
Well, obviously I used to use the Les Paul when I left Motorhead, and I took up with the Les Paul then. On the shows in 2007, I started with the Les Paul. It was great, but I ended up going back to the Strat, which I was quite surprised. And I changed the pickup on it because I used to have an XN2 on it when I was in Motorhead on the bridge. Mm-hmm. And I put a super distortion on, which actually isn't as distorted as the XN2. And so I gave it a try, and it worked really well. And I found myself a little more comfortable with the Strat this time. I don't know whether it's because it's a bit more glitzy, you know, it's got the brass scratch plate and all the bells and whistles on it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that, but it just felt more comfortable. Of course, it's a lot lighter than the Les Paul, because my Les Paul, I bought it in 1972, brand new. It was a gold top then with the little diamond humbuckers on it. But it's the heaviest one they ever made. Mm. And maybe because I'm getting old a bit, you know, my shoulder can't take it.
Strats.
I joke. I could always. Well, I've got this big thick Strat, so it doesn't really bother me. But I don't know. I was quite surprised myself that I tried out the Strat and I felt really comfortable with it. So actually, I took it to Japan with me and played with it there, and I'm sort of warming towards it. But then, of course, we went in the studio, and I started to use the Strat on a couple of tracks. And it never quite works with Fastway, the early Fastway stuff, the Strat. I tried it then. I don't know what it is. Recording it just gets a little bit mushy. Mm-hmm. You know, so I went back to the Les Paul, and of course it's loud, it's hard. It's a hard loudness, you know, from the Lester. And because I've got that replacement pickup on there that DiMarzio made back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And it really, I bought about 10 of them at the time. I'm about on my last one now, but I used to change them every couple of years because they go microphonic, but it really kicks off. So with my old amp and my Les Paul, my sound was exactly the same as it was. I was using exactly the same things as I used in 1983 when we did the first Fastway album, and it's fantastic. I mean, I'm so happy that the sound is my sound, you know. Mm-hmm.
Well, you may just have one guitar for, you know, studio and one for live. Yeah,
I think that's what it'll be. And I mean, I'll always keep my Les Paul with me because it does have the edge, you know. But when you're doing festivals, I don't know. It's not quite the same when you're doing festivals. You know, the sounds are slightly different on the stage with all the air around you. And I think that, I don't know why, the Strat seems to be more comfortable in the air. But we did a little club to open the tour that we did, well, these sort of shows we did. We did a little club in London, and I found the Les Paul better there. So it's a kind of a weird one, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so 1986, when you guys did the Trick or Treat album, do you remember how that came about?
We'd done the third Fastway album, Waiting for the Roar, which wasn't something I really wanted to put my name to it. By then, we'd been taken over by management and record company. They were sort of like figuring heavy in it, and Dave was playing with the Irish band. I was living in Ireland at the time, and I'd become sort of a member of their band. Mm. So the whole thing was getting away from me then. It wasn't really my band anymore. And so what happened was that Waiting for the Roar album, I mean, we put all these keyboards on it, and Terry Manning done the production, and we did it at Abbey Road. In fact, I'm still paying for that record now. Mm. I thought it was a disaster. I mean, I didn't like it. We used Fairlight drums as you did in the 80s,
Yeah.
And it just wasn't Eddie Clarke, and so, and quite honestly, the tour, we did a European tour with supporting AC/DC, which, the band played well. We played well. It was some good sessions there, but the album never did any business. We couldn't tour in America because the Americans didn't like it, and I don't blame them because it was a very sort of plasticky record, I always thought. And you remember those early computer days,
Oh, yeah.
And so things were looking real bad for us. I was living in Ireland, as I say, because Dave was living there with his band over there. And it was looking like the end of the road for Fastway. And our management phoned me up one day and said, look, how do you fancy doing a soundtrack? I said, well, I mean, I'm up for it because I've never done a soundtrack. So the idea of doing something new is always appeals to me. And they'd been talking to someone at the Dino De Laurentiis organisation. And they said that, Ozzy's doing it and the guy from Kiss is doing it, and, it'd be great if Fastway did the music because we haven't got anybody to do the music yet. So I jumped at the chance. And Dave was a little reluctant because by then he was very upset that the Waiting for the Raw album hadn't done any business because it was kind of like his baby. And so it was all fraught with all that. Dave wasn't really into heavy metal anymore, and so he said, I'm not into heavy rock anymore, man. I want to go my own way. And I said to him, look, man, let's do this as our swan song. I said, we've made this to be our fourth album together. I said, because I discovered him, when he was nothing. And I said, well, let's just do this one. I said, do it for me because I'd like to get this done. And so he agreed to do it. But of course, and it actually worked quite well. I don't know whether it was because by then there'd been this sort of, it wasn't a rift so much. It was just that he'd grown out of the Fastway thing. He had to plan, singers they like to go on and do other things, like poetry or Irish songs or something. And so we set about doing the album. Well, it actually really worked quite well, I thought. Because we weren't really particularly close friends then. He was doing it under duress, and I was doing it because I loved doing it. And of course, I was talking to Charles Martin Smith on the phone, and of course, I'd seen him in a couple of movies, so it was quite funny, really. I'm going, so what do you want for this scene? And he'd tell me he'd tell me a song, an idea for a song, and he'd say, well, go and listen to this song, and I want something like that. So I'd go and listen to it, and I think, okay. So it's kind of like a nice process, and we finally got the album finished, and I really enjoyed recording the album. I must admit, I did enjoy it, and that was the end. Dave then went his separate way. He set off on his own thing with his own band. I kind of, and I came back to London. I was sort of out in the cold at that point. So, but Trick or Treat was a great album. I mean, just because of soundtrack albums, a bit like festivals. They're not like normal gigs. You have to kind of adhere to certain parameters. And I think that's sometimes good for musicians, because you're sitting there, sometimes you sit there thinking, well, what should we write, man? The nice thing about this was I talked to the director, and he'd tell me what type of style he wanted for a particular scene. So it gave me something to aim at. Yeah. And I found that very helpful,
Oh, yeah. Sometimes a little guidance like that can bring out some creativity,
and it narrows the field a bit of, where you can go. So I really enjoyed it. I mean, the album did very well, I remember. It was a very popular album, and people still, when we were doing those festivals in 2000, people were all shouting out for Trick or Treat, But it's not the easiest song to do live. It's one of those songs that you try and do it, and it seems to have a big hole in the middle.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not one I tend to do live.
Do you play anything off that album live?
No.
Yeah, I do really enjoy that album. I think it's a really solid.
No, I still listen to it now because I've got it. I have all these playlists on me on this thing now, and I always take a couple of tracks on there. After Midnight's the one I like, and Trick or Treat I like particularly.
Yeah.
Although the Fight is quite good. I quite like that as well.
That's a good one.
And the slow one. You see when you start talking to me about it, I can hear all the songs now. There's the slow one, down, 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 down.
Right.
Yeah, that riff keeps coming into my head every so often. That riff will come into my head, and I'll think, "Oh, that's a good riff. I should do something with that."
Well, maybe you guys
I remember that it's on Trick or Treat.
Yeah, maybe you guys can break out one of those songs live this time. You know?
Well, I suppose we could. I mean, Toby and I are pretty close at the moment. I mean, he's still doing his production work because he's been producing a couple of bands, the Virgin Marys and the Chrome Molly he's just doing. But there is a chance, if we could have a relatively good spell with this record. I mean, I have another album in me for sure, and I'm pretty sure Toby has. So, if provided we just get the right amount of feedback from this record, like worldwide, it doesn't have to be fantastic because things ain't fantastic anymore. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But just a little bit to keep the momentum going, then I think we could, this could go on for a little while, this new Fastway thing. It's like a new chapter,
Well, that would be great, and I'd love to see you guys come over here and play. So, anything we can do, you let me know, and we'll definitely...
I will do.
We'll definitely spread the word on the release April 10th, you said?
April 10th, yeah.
All right, that's the physical copy, and they can download now through iTunes, I believe.
Yes, I think it is on iTunes.
Well, all right, Eddie, it's been great talking to you, my friend.
Well, my pleasure.
I look forward to seeing you guys playing live again.
Yeah, let's hope it happens this year.
I hope we get you guys into Nashville, Tennessee, too.
Yeah, me too, mate. Thanks very much.